I wanted to keep telling stories, and I wanted to keep traveling. And I did that by riding a motorcycle for 65 days, 18,000 kilometers all the way around China, setting a Guinness World Record. Like, I knew the moment I went to China, that was my muse. The authenticity that we have in that show is really not something that's seen in other parts of the entertainment world. And one reason why I built that career that I had, it was fun.
The worst thing you can do in life is to be boring. The worst place to be boring is the television. Trust me. Even though I fully agree, I'm not the one who said this. It's the motto of my next guest, an adventurer in every sense of the word. Before COVID hit, he used to spend 250 days a year on the road, filming and producing television series, documentaries broadcasted in almost every territory around the world. His superpower is being able to constantly reinvent himself and still being successful at everything he does. Going from a high-level athlete, a recognized television personality, journalist, producer, photographer, to being a published author. Even when the world collapses, he finds his way to become relevant. Welcome, Ryan Pyle.
Thank you.
To the Change podcast. And usually we say the people coming here are the change officers.
Okay.
But getting to know you, I can say you are the change ambassador.
Okay.
You are embracing the change, embrace the change so many times in your life. So we can start maybe from basketball.
Yeah, I think I was a sporty kid. I played a lot of sports. My father was very into athletics. He represented Canada in the 1972 Olympics.
In which sports?
For water polo.
Oh, Canada,
yeah.
Water polo.
Yeah, so he was, he really, instilled sports in us from a young age, my brother and I. So we were always exercising and playing team sports. And I kind of gravitated towards basketball and had a real love of it and had the opportunity to play for the University of Toronto, which was, a great honor.
That's kind of a semi-pro, I would say. You trained a lot.
Oh yeah, every day for years. But it was great because you have a team full of guys and you do everything together. You travel together, you live together, you play together. It was a great community. And then of course, if you're not good enough to play professional, after that, there's this huge part of your life that just disappears. It's terrifying. A lot of professional athletes that retire, or a lot of college athletes that don't get a chance to carry on with their careers, they go through huge depression because your whole identity is wrapped up in your sport.
But this is when your first big change came, the age of 22.
Sure.
When you left the group sports, as you said, traveling together, living together, eating together,
Yeah.
and everything. And then you said, okay, I don't know anyone in China.
Right.
I don't know Chinese, and I will go to China. How that change happens?
Yeah, I just didn't want to be in Toronto anymore, and not be playing basketball and not having that life and having that community around me. And I didn't want to just go and get a job and stay in the same city, with the same friends and talk about like the things we used to do. I didn't want that existence.
That was kind of emotionally hard.
Of course, yeah, of course. Anytime. Graduating university was very exciting, and I studied international politics at the University of Toronto, so I got to learn a little about the world. I took a few classes on China, Chinese history, Asian history, and I just thought that what was going on in China was very interesting in the late 90s and the early 2000s, and I wanted to be a part of that growth and that excitement. So I left Canada and I just moved to Shanghai, and I thought that I didn't know how it was going to play out, but I just felt like that was going to be the next chapter.
But more than that, next chapter wasn't any sports coaching or whatever. It was storytelling.
Yeah, because when I first went to China, I didn't know what I wanted to do. The thing is, when you play high-level sports, you're not a very well-rounded person.
Yeah.
You play sports like 6 hours a day. And you don't have time for any other hobbies. But when I went to China, my sporting life was gone, and all of a sudden I had opportunities to try everything. And it turned out I loved writing and photography. So I thought,
how does it turn out that you like?
Well, I went to a part of the world that I'd never been to before. And there was this fire inside of me, this desire to share what I was seeing with other people. Because, a lot of people have traveled to China now. It's, the last few years prior to 2019, it was a very popular business and tourism destination. But in like 99, 2000, 2001, not a lot of people had been to China. So I really felt like I was traveling around China by myself. I had a backpack. I was on trains. I was taking buses to remote villages in Tibet. And I really felt like I was on, a little pioneering expedition. And I was writing and photographing everything and writing these long letters back to family and friends in Toronto. And that was kind of how my journalism career started.
And as we mentioned at the beginning, you were successful at it. Sorry, we mentioned it before the recording started.
Sure.
But you were successful in it, and it was for 10 years. Then is it from 2002 to?
Yeah. It was. Print journalism had a heyday, and that was from 2002 to 2009, 10. When people still put classified ads in newspapers.
Yeah,
that was the big revenue stream.
What's that?
Yeah, exactly.
The young will ask.
The young generations will ask. Before online, online classified ads. So newspapers and magazines paid me a lot of money. And it was great for years to just travel around China and tell stories about China.
Wow.
And it was a dream situation. Now, it didn't happen right away. I had to work for local magazines in China that were English language magazines. There were some in Shanghai and Beijing, mostly for the expatriate community that lives there. And then I started working for regional newspapers and magazines in Hong Kong and Singapore, also English language. And then eventually I got a break to work with the New York Times. And then once I started working with the New York Times,
it got big.
Yeah, it got big. And then I was working with Time, Newsweek, Forbes, Fortune, all these really beautiful magazines at the time were making great money and producing incredible content, of the highest journalism standards. And then when we had the financial crisis in 2008, 2009, obviously that had a lot of consequences. And one very small consequence, people lost their homes, people lost their livelihoods. It was terrible. But one very, very small thing that happened there also too was the publishing industry definitely collapsed.
Yeah.
And that affected my world. So I was looking at not being able to do my writing and photography at the same level that I had previously. So then again, I had to decide what to do, and it was television.
Reinvent or the change.
Reinvent or change, yeah. Because I think I wanted to keep telling stories, and I wanted to keep traveling, and I felt like I could pull it off. Like I just felt like I could talk to the camera and convey my emotions in an authentic way, and I think one of the things that helped me do that was while I was a print journalist and while I was a photographer in China, I would always go back to the University of Toronto every year. And I would lecture in the same classes that I used to take about China and how China was changing and growing. And actually that public speaking really helped me get the confidence to be on TV in a comfortable way. And
being on TV in a comfortable way.
Yeah, because a lot of people are on TV and they just don't pull it off. Yeah, they're just very afraid or they just have a lot of difficulties speaking or letting their emotions kind of flow out of them in a clear and concise way.
Oh, yeah.
So that public speaking really helped me gain the confidence to do that. And then, of course, the adventure element of it was easy because China's an amazing adventure destination. Whether you're on the back of a bus, rolling through Tibet, or whether you're on your own BMW motorcycle, which is, what I did for a few years, riding motorcycles around China, or whether you're climbing mountains. China just has an amazing wilderness. So I can definitely say that my experiences in China at an early age got me hooked on the adventure world.
That's, as you said, easy in China because it's picturesque and inspirational for the rides. But I don't want to skip the change that happened between the journalism and TV production. That was not easy change. I think you had a lot of no's.
Terrible. It was terrible. Yeah.
Terrible.
None of these transitions have been easy or fun. I think, anytime that you start something new, it's really challenging. So going from a print journalism and photography world to television is a huge transition. And just because I'd won some awards as a photographer doesn't mean that anyone was going to pay me to make television. That's not a transition that's very easy for a broadcast executive. So I had an idea about making a show in China, and I reached out to pretty much every broadcaster under the sun, many of whom I work with now, and they all said no. And then I just said, you know what, this is going to be my future. So I invested in myself, and we made a show.
Yeah. Okay. What did you invested in yourself?
Yeah.
We are not talking about equipment only.
Yeah. Equipment, time, energy.
And how did you learn the production? Like how do you, on the go or?
Well, I had been doing print journalism for a long time, so I knew where to go, how to build a story, what to say in different places. So I kind of took my print journalism skills of storytelling and applied them to the television show. And we didn't really know what we were doing on that first trip. And actually that China trip was very special, because when I still watch that show from time to time, you can see the rawness of it all. And it was quite nice to look back.
It was Tibet, yeah?
No, we rode a motorcycle all the way around China.
Oh, no. That was the first show?
Yeah, that was the first show. So what happened was I really didn't like the way that the Western media was portraying China.
Oh.
And I was part of that, because I was working for those same media.
Yeah.
But we were doing the same story a lot. And because I lived in Shanghai, a city of 30 million people, whenever I had a chance to have a vacation or relax, I would go out to the mountains of Tibet, or I would go out to these remote places in the western Xinjiang, which is now in the news for a totally different reason.
Yeah.
But I would go out to those places, and I loved it. And no one was doing stories about those places. I was just going to the same factories on the border with Hong Kong, talking about these poor working conditions, or the young boy that had passed away working on a production line, making a product that we all use here. That was like again and again. So when my print world, my print journalism world was finished, I really wanted to make my first show about the China that I knew. And I did that by riding a motorcycle for 65 days, 18,000 kilometers all the way around China, setting a Guinness World Record. And we made a 6-part TV show, which through a lot of pain, we eventually sold to Travel Channel. And then that gave me a career.
Yeah, that was the start of the new career. But being someone in the video production world, what does it take, in a nutshell, what does it take to direct on the go? Because there is definitely a lot of preparations, hours and months and everything. But
sure.
How do you direct on the go? What's the
balance?
Yeah. No. I would rather ask. How do you do it to look like everything is like smooth and because sometimes you have to leave the cameraman go away 5 kilometers in front of you to wait for you, or I don't know, like kilometer, and then you just pass him and that's it,
Yeah, drones make it a little bit easier now. But
yeah.
But back in the day, yeah, the car with the camera guy and all of our equipment would have to drive up ahead and find a beautiful corner next to a beautiful lake and then stop. And then we would just ride through, and he would get that shot, and then he would get back in the car and pass us again and find the next place. So I mean, directing on the go is hard. Producing on the go is hard. Being on camera is also hard. But I mean, but I've been doing this now for 10 years just because I was forced to do it at the beginning of my career because no one else would work with us, and it saved us a ton of money. So I just took on that burden. And it's been tough. It's not easy. Relationships are hard, but it was amazing to have total control over the show and total control over the messaging of the show, and I think that's one reason why the shows have been fairly successful, especially with Extreme Treks, which is on BBC Earth, Amazon Prime, and also on Emirates Airlines. The authenticity that we have in that show is really not something that's seen in other parts of the entertainment world, because we have such control over it, and because we don't have all these producers telling us that we need to jazz things up or create some drama here, or some sensationalization.
Well, one of the most important things for someone is to be himself on the screen, and that's something that how the trip. So you said you were in the Guinness Book of Records. Going around one country, the longest way in one country, something like that.
The longest journey in one country without backtracking or overlapping is the exact wording of that. Yeah.
So, and you are with your brother.
With my brother, yeah. So my brother
that's
joined me.
That's amazing story also. How he joined you. That's the amazing story.
Yeah, my brother's a transition guru as well, I suppose, because he was in banking. He was in banking for a few years, and then he wanted to make the move and live in London, England. So he's very entrepreneurial. So in the time when he quit his banking job in Toronto and before he moved to London, he actually came to do the motorcycle trip with me. And I thought it would be a great dynamic because I had been living in China for 10 years. I knew China and he had never been to China and he came to join me. So it was like two brothers going out and I was going to kind of teach him about the China that I knew. And that's the dynamic that played out very naturally. And that was one of the things that made the show a lot of fun. And yes. We had a great time.
You had a great time. You were together. But how this trip affected his career and his life?
I think so. A career in entertainment is not for everyone.
Yeah.
And when you do something and then expect to see results right away, it doesn't happen. So you either have to if you want to be in the entertainment world, if you want to be in television or film, I think you have to dedicate your life to it. And then whatever happens, happens. And my brother is much more result oriented than that. So when we made our first TV show, the fact that the second one didn't happen very easily or quickly, he's like, I got to get another job, man. So he kind of said, look, if you want to do another motorcycle show and I'm free, I'll figure it out. But, I need to work. Whereas I was kind of much more focused on pursuing this as this, because I like the lifestyle. The lifestyle was, prior to 2020, the lifestyle was amazing. It was a very heightened existence of traveling all over the world.
In 2019, you spent 40 days in Dubai.
Yeah, so Dubai is my home. I'm a resident of Dubai, but up until a few months ago, I'd never spent any time here, really. I just used it as a transit hub, basically. I have an office here.
Which is an amazing transit hub because it's connected to everywhere.
It is, yeah. I was trying to travel the world from Shanghai for many years, and it was just too difficult because getting in and out of China is just not as easy as Dubai. So I relocated here, and it was amazing, yeah. So, in 2019, I traveled like 300 days. I filmed 12 episodes of television. I did 50 speaking engagements. None of that was in Dubai. I've never worked in Dubai. I just stayed at a hotel apartment for 3-4 days every month, go to my office, back up all the footage, have the Zoom calls with my editors who are in New Zealand and the USA, and then get back on a plane and go to a speaking engagement, and then come back here for another day or two, and then get on a plane and go film somewhere for 2 weeks.
And then everything stopped.
Yeah, everything stopped
First stopped
aggressively.
Abruptly.
Abruptly, yeah.
It was in March of 2020. You were on the mountains of Ethiopia.
Yep.
And you hear that you cannot go home.
Yes.
To Dubai.
Yeah, that was a bit. So what happened was, like everyone here in Dubai in 2019, we were all chasing the Saudi dream. So Saudi Arabia was opening up, and they opened up for tourism, and they had electronic visas and stuff like that in September 2019. And I had been going to Saudi Arabia for many years before that because I really saw Saudi Arabia opening up, and I really wanted to start telling stories about Saudi Arabia and the people and the landscape. And I was amazed by it every time I went. And the people are really what make that place amazing. And so at the end of 2019 and early 2020, I had lined up several film and television productions in Saudi Arabia.
Oh.
And then, of course, in early March, Saudi Arabia closed their borders, and those borders are still closed today. And then I basically lost all my contracts. So I was like, man, what am I going to do? Because I was supposed to start filming in Saudi Arabia in April.
Everything is set.
Everything was set, yeah. And then I was like, okay, well, we'll just get back to filming extreme treks because that's what I do best, and we'll stay busy. And the thinking was, obviously in February we had China under lockdown, we had real problems in Italy, and then Europe was starting to have issues, but Africa was kind of free and clear. At least, it looked like
at the moment.
And I got tired of sitting at home, drinking whiskey, watching the news every day, feeling the anxiety of not knowing what was going to happen next. And I felt that was, me at my most unhealthy. And it bothered me. So I didn't know how to deal with that anxiety. I just lost all this work in Saudi Arabia, and all I wanted to do was go climb in the mountains somewhere. So I went to Ethiopia because I had planned an episode of Extreme Treks there a few years ago, and we had to cancel it for another episode. So we had it all planned. I knew the guide, I knew the region, I knew exactly what we needed to get an episode there. So we put it together in like a week, and I called up Daoud, who was my guide there. He was a beautiful man. I miss him a lot. And we went. So we flew from Dubai to Addis Ababa, went north to Gondar, and then we started what was going to be a 10-day trek through the Simien Mountains on the border with South Sudan. And we got into day 4, and then the United Arab Emirates closed their borders. Now, on March 11th, the WHO indicated that we were in the midst of a global viral pandemic.
Yeah.
And I left for Ethiopia on the 14th. So, was it the right decision?
You were asking for it.
Maybe, but I needed to get out, and I just
course.
wanted to be in the mountains.
Yeah.
So, I'm in the mountains of Ethiopia for 4 days. I'm trekking 20 kilometers a day. I'm living in a tent. We're totally isolated, no villages, no people, no nothing. It was perfect. It was exactly what I needed. It was exactly what I wanted. And while we were there, my camera guys and I, we were like, we'll always be able to go back to Dubai. Worst case scenario, we just get on a plane and go back to Dubai.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario. But of course, Dubai
it went
closed.
below that.
It went way below that. So I'll tell you, it was noon on March 19th when I got a text message from my friend Nick. And I made an Instagram post about this a few days ago because it was the 1-year anniversary of that life-changing moment. And he's like, hey, buddy, it looks like you're going to be in Ethiopia a little longer. UAE closed their borders to residents. And I found that pretty funny because I own property here. Yeah. I'm a business owner. Yeah. So to be blocked out of my home, essentially, I don't have any of these things anywhere else in the world. So to be kind of locked out of here was difficult. But of course, then then we went into crisis mode. It was like we sat down, we had tea, very calm, but we're like, this film shoot is over, obviously. The world is closing in around us. If the UAE have closed their borders, how long is it going to be before Ethiopia closes their borders? Where can we go? What can we do? So Daoud called a driver. We were about 6 or 7 hours away from the nearest road. We just ran to the nearest road, got a car to pick us up there, and we drove straight back to Addis Ababa. And it's about a 12-hour drive from Gondar. And the whole time we were just on our phones, like, where can we fly to? Where can we fly to? Where can we fly to? So my camera guy who was with me, Chad Ingram, who's the best guy in the world, he went back to Canada. He's also a resident of Dubai.
He's a resident of Dubai, living in Bali.
Living in Bali most of the year.
That was the really good moment.
Yeah, he's super smart. I mean, we were traveling all around the world, and he would live in Bali between our filming, and I would be here or do speaking events, and then we would meet up again. Yeah, and he had his motorcycle, and he loved the beach, and he would go surfing. And that was how he enjoyed his downtime.
We have someone in the studio who will cry right now, listening to all the stories. Yeah, I think he's something about that adventurous.
Yeah, his motorcycle's still there. He hasn't been back to Bali for a long time, but it's so we had that kind of dynamic, and he really wanted to try to get back to Bali. But while we were in the car driving back to Addis Ababa, we were going straight to the airport, and we both didn't know we were flying. And he was going back to Bali, so we were on that like ITAT, the International Travel Association, Aviation.
IATA.
Yeah, we were on that website on our phone, like refreshing it every 5 minutes. Yeah. And I tell you, like every 10 minutes, another country was closed. It was terrifying. Yeah. So Chad was like, I got to go back to Canada. Like, we have Canadian passports, so we were always going to be able to go back to Canada. So he went back to Canada to stay with family, and I went to Istanbul because I wanted to stay in the region because people were saying 2 weeks and everything will be fine. So I thought, okay, maybe the Saudi work will kick up again, in a couple of weeks, and I got to stay in the region. I got to be in the same time zone as my partners and clients and whatever. So
then 2 weeks passed by.
2 weeks. I mean, it was terrible. Like I showed up in Istanbul and I was at the St. Regis Hotel and I checked in at 8 a.m. on March 21st. March 19th, we got the text message. We drove all day. Chad flew on the 20th out of Addis Ababa, a day before they closed the airport. I flew that same night, overnight to Istanbul. I arrived in Istanbul 7 a.m. Turkey closed their borders the same day at 5 p.m.
Oh.
I showed up in Istanbul at the hotel, and I was the only guest at the hotel. They let me stay there for 2 or 3 days, and they're like, "Hey, do you mind moving on so we can close the hotel because you're the only guest?" And I'm like, "Yeah, no problem." So I went to another hotel. So I was at the Hilton hotel for 2 weeks, and I just booked 2 weeks at a time. I'm like, "Hey guys, the Hilton always stays open in Istanbul. They're very proud of that, even through like wars and revolutions. They're always open." So they were really sweet, and there were only 3 rooms occupied in a 500-room hotel.
Oh my God.
And I was one of them, and they gave me a huge suite with a nice kitchen, which was really nice of them. And I stayed there for 2 weeks and just watched the news like everyone else. And I was like, and then I booked another 2 weeks at the Hilton, and then I booked another 2 weeks at the Hilton, and then I was like, this isn't gonna stop. So then I went and got an Airbnb, and I stayed there for 3 months, which was crazy. I mean, to think that. I know you got stuck in Singapore as well. For many
3 months. Yeah,
3 months too. Yeah. I mean, it was just very surreal. But everyone has their lockdown story now. That's for sure.
Yes, everybody has a story to tell. In Singapore for 94 days, I bought a guitar. I played the guitar. I did some videos on YouTube, me playing and singing and whatnot, and collaborating with other people, which were sitting on their hands, doing nothing.
Yeah.
And also I gained a lot of weight. That was my hobby basically in Singapore. But you, in Istanbul, you were more towards wake up and have something to do.
Yeah.
Like you did a lot of Instagram lives, and you met a new friend.
Yes. So.
Your companion.
My companion. So as we continue on this, journey of constant change in my life, with the coming of the COVID-19 global viral pandemic, the television career is obviously put on hold. So we're no longer traveling around the world making television the way we used to. And that became very clear while we were in Istanbul. So after a couple weeks of drinking and watching everything on Netflix, I got really bored. So I was sitting outside on my balcony one night, having a drink, watching the sunset, which is beautiful in Istanbul. And I could hear this little cat like crying, but not like meow, meow, like help, help. It was terrible noise. So I went down and was looking for this noise, following the noise. And I found this little cat in a box. He was about the size of my hand, no more than a week old. And he was shivering. It was like 4 degrees Celsius. It was March, end of March. And he was covered in fleas and covered in blood. The fleas were like eating him alive. And he was clearly like the runt of the litter. And it was obvious that like the mother had moved the other kittens to another home. Like she had given birth and then just left him behind. There were no mother around, no other brothers or sisters. So I just grabbed him, took him upstairs, got him cleaned up. And then went to the vet and got him like a little bottle and fed him formula. So yeah, I saved this cat's life. I named him Whiskey because that's my favorite thing, and now he's my favorite thing. And and I made saving this cat's life my Istanbul project, which was great. And then after Istanbul, I did end up filming in Europe last summer, and he came with me, and he's here in Dubai. He travels with me everywhere.
Yeah, he well-traveled cat.
Well-traveled cat, yes.
Yeah, all around Europe. And how many countries? Like
about 10 countries.
10 countries already.
And he's just had his 1-year birthday.
Happy birthday to Whiskey.
Yes.
So when you travel to Europe, just go back. We want to go back to Istanbul just a little bit more. You started a podcast, or you started Instagram live
I did
sessions?
Both.
Both.
Because I was stuck in a hotel room with nothing to do. So I thought I should just start talking to people. You were playing guitar on, doing YouTube videos, and I just started talking with friends on Instagram, live. And making it interactive, where people could ask us questions and listen on. And it started as something I just did with friends, and then I branded it the COVID Calls.
COVID Calls, yeah.
And I did one a day for 100 days.
Oh.
So I did 100 episodes of a new show called The COVID Calls on Instagram Live starring Ryan Pyle. And I just had talks with friends and people in the industry and people I missed and people who I had always wanted to reach out to but never did. And I made a lot of new friends, and I got to connect with a lot of old friends. And I even had 2 COVID calls with my cousin, who's a psychiatrist, just talking about like how to deal with this. And we had basically an open psychology session on Instagram Live.
You were sharing, yeah.
Yeah, and people really appreciated that. So I was just like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm losing my mind. He's like, it's okay. You feel like you're in control? I'm like, yeah. He goes, you wake up every morning like feeling positive? I'm like, yeah, but I'm bored. And he's like, okay, well, you got to find something to do to feed the boredom. I was like, well, I got the cat and I got this. And he's like, okay, you're doing well. And, we were working through like, what we need to get through the day. Being locked down in a foreign city where I didn't know anyone.
So you mentioned the purpose of your stay in Istanbul became this cat and this podcast and this Instagram lives. But there is a simple question behind all of your adventures and all of your changes that you embraced in life. The simple question is, why?
Because you have to. I mean, if you don't adapt, you die. I mean, that's evolution, right? And I think, as human beings, we're currently going through a huge adaptation in the way we live at the moment. But your career is no different. And, technology changes careers, relationships change careers. Everything changes all the time. I don't know why we're so surprised by that. Like the era of having one job for 40 years and then retiring is over. I'm sorry if that's new news to anyone, but it's over. So if you're not constantly reinventing yourself, then the world is going to pass you by. And I recognize that from a pretty young age. And I've always been on the lookout for new opportunities and new ways to, have some side hustles, have some other business opportunities, and always kind of be balancing some different things, so that when one of them fails or one of them is no longer viable, I will have something else to fall back on. And it didn't always work out that smoothly, but that's always kind of the plan. Yeah. But you have to embrace that change, and it's hard. You feel hopeless, you feel depressed. You're like, oh, why didn't my life be the same as it was? It was so good, now it's not. And it's just like, okay, time to pick yourself up and, figure out what's next.
And learn things on the go, like educating through experience, as you said.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the big thing.
Because there's no way to not do that. Like, there's no way to not continually grow and educate yourself and still be a useful member of society.
Some of the best things came from the situations when somebody's back to a corner, like
sure.
What to do now, whatever. I think we are all in the situation like that now. We have to kind of reinvent ourselves. And I would really like to keep in touch and see what happens with Pyle in the next 6 months and the year. Yeah. And I'm sure whatever you choose to do will be successful, because everything you did, do you feel like that everything you did up until now, I don't say it was easy, but it was successful.
Yeah, I think,
Guinness Book of Records.
Transitioning from
BBC,
you just
Amazon,
you have to be crazy enough. I think transitioning from being an athlete to a journalist and writer, photographer, that was a pretty good transition. It was hard, but it was fun. But I knew it right away. Like, I knew the moment I went to China, that was my muse. Like, I knew I wanted to write and tell stories about China. And at that time, I thought that was going to be my career forever. Yeah. I was so inspired to tell stories about China and Chinese people because I felt like no one knew. And at that time, that was before mobile phones, before really the internet. This was when people just used the internet for email. So this was, we didn't have all these pictures of what China was, and I was going around with a film camera, and I felt like I had an obligation to show people what I was seeing. So I really was motivated by that, and it came to me very easily. And then when that ended, the television was just a natural progression. And again, I knew that right away about that I needed to make the transition to TV. And then it took me a while to figure it out, but I did it. This transition that we are currently in is a bit of a different beast because I have not yet figured out what's next. So last March we had the lockdown, but the great thing is that in Europe they had this like summer reopening, and I used that to film all summer. So I filmed in Switzerland, Poland, Germany, Malta, Croatia, and Montenegro last summer. I was able to line up some work, and people were willing to pay. The mood was good. And then, of course, October, November, December last year, the mood was terrible. Everything, Europe closed up. I came back to Dubai. I've now been here for 6 months as of April 17th, which is 3 days away. But but now that that kind of chapter, I think, is pretty much over in my career, or at least it's not going to go back to the way it was.
Anytime soon.
Anytime soon. So I don't know what to do. It hasn't come to me as naturally or as quickly as the last transitions did. And you know, like I'm not a doomsday, you know, predictor.
Yeah.
I'm not an overly negative person. Yeah. I try to be as rational as possible. Travel will come back. People will move around again. I'm sure all of that will happen somehow. Travel is too big to fail.
Of course.
But
and the desire to travel
is huge. But I really believe that it will not be as fun as it was. And one reason why I built that career that I had by design, I did it all because I loved it. It was fun. It was sexy. It was romantic. It was amazing to be in Uganda, and then next week in Indonesia, and then next week in Eastern Russia. You know, it was amazing. And now it's like, now it's you can't even go to Abu Dhabi and do a film shoot. Yeah. So, and we're 40 minutes
away. At least it's not fun.
No, it's not fun. Everyone's wearing masks. People need to get tested, and then everyone needs to keep their distance, and then people are worried and nervous, and it's just like, yeah, it's not. I don't know if I love television that much to do it while it's not fun.
Yeah.
Like it was up here, and now it's going to be way down here, and I don't know if it's worth continuing. And that's the struggle I wake up with now every morning.
To be very honest, our company, of course, like other companies, had to pivot, and we turned to digital.
Okay.
Very much into digital, and this is what kept us alive in the past period. And it is exciting, and it is becoming exciting, as you say. Especially now with the 5G, there will be a lot of telecom operators searching for content because they will become OTTs like Netflix, Hulu, Stars Play, whatever.
Sure.
So I'm sure that for a good storyteller and a strong brand, and this is what I think you have created through journalism, and then through TV, and then today with social media and stuff. If you have a good brand and a good story, this is the key to anything. Just you have to find the way to tell your story, whatever the story is. So maybe digital could be some kind of a solution. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know though.
You don't see it now, but
I don't know. I'm still searching. Like, and that's the tough thing about this is we're all searching for how to kind of get through it and where we're going to be at the end of it. And I think, we're probably going to be in this kind of situation for quite a while.
We are lucky that we are on this fine location in Dubai, which is amazing to live in and really safe and open.
Like, think about it. If we were in Germany right now, we couldn't do this interview. If we were in Italy right now, if we were in France, or like we couldn't sit here maskless.
Yes.
2 meters apart and have a conversation.
For the interview, I digged up this in Europe. It was not Germany, but I think France. You have to be 4 meters apart to do interview.
Sure.
So it would be really difficult to cover it with the cameras. Just one thing wanted to ask you. You traveled a lot of the countries in the world, a lot of extreme locations and whatnot. People of Balkans, when I'm from Serbia, are very proud of how Balkans is beautiful and whatnot. You recently spent some time there.
I did.
And actually, I followed you on Instagram when you met my good friend Igor Mayer.
Of course. In Montenegro.
In Kotor.
Beautiful guy.
This guy.
Yeah, I love him.
When you say beautiful guy, can you look at this camera? Because I want to put his picture next to you.
He's a beautiful guy.
No, you look like your brothers.
Oh, really?
Do you realize that?
No.
That you look like him?
No, we haven't edited the Montenegro episode yet. So maybe
when you edit it.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely freeze this shot and put his. So I would like to ask the viewers to comment below. Do you think that Ryan and Igor look alike?
I mean, he did a double Ironman. I mean, he's insane.
He did so many crazy things.
He did so many crazy athletic achievements, and to be able to sit and talk with him in Kotar, in the old town in Kotar, and just sit down and have a nice chat was amazing. And the way he's built his athletic career personally, and then use that to host some of Montenegro's biggest events. He's a legend, man. I love him. He's awesome. It was so nice to meet him.
triathlon, ocean lava triathlon. I'm there every May. You know,
Sure.
I used to be triathlete, you know, but obviously not now.
Right.
But no matter I went there 100 times, you know, it amazes me all the time. How do you compare the beauty of Montenegro? Can you compare the beauty of Montenegro? I know that all your trips and all your episodes are like your kids.
Yeah.
But how do you feel about the Montenegro mountains and beauty and?
Montenegro looks like Switzerland.
Yeah.
Like, that's a fact.
Yeah.
Like,
Have you been to Durmitor?
I haven't, but I heard the eastern part of Montenegro.
Yeah,
like
or even Komovi.
Yeah, I mean Montenegro physically, geographically is like Switzerland,
Yeah.
and it's spectacular. Now, okay, the roads, the people, you know,
A bit different.
a little bit different, and the you know, but the people we had a wonderful time, and the people were amazing, and then you know we filmed in Croatia as well. We were in Dubrovnik. Dubrovnik was great, and there were no tourists there because of
of course.
The difficulty of flying, and
They live of tourism.
yeah, they do. And it was empty, and a lot of people were going bankrupt and stuff like that. And so a lot of shops were closed and restaurants were closed. So it was a very hard time for a lot of people. But we had a chance to meet some amazing people in Dubrovnik. And and in Slovenia, I mean, I flew into Slovenia from Istanbul. That was my first exit point of me starting to live a little again. So that was we were in Ljubljana, and Ljubljana is beautiful too.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah,
it's the
it's
old
nice.
town with the river.
And the mountains, the Alps around it. It's really, really nice.
It's stunning. So
Ljubljanica. You cannot. It's difficult to Ljubljanica.
Ljubljanica, yeah.
That's
so it's a stunning part of the world, and it's a part of the world I might spend a lot more time in as we come into the summer here in Dubai, and as I'm looking to try to find an open location to spend my summer in.
Igor is organizing now on Durmitor, which is an amazing mountain.
Right.
100 kilometers Highlander track.
Wow.
Highlander competition.
Wow.
You know, and it's amazing. And it's a few days, like 4 days or 5 days, 20 kilometers or 30 kilometers each day. So it's 3 days, 4 days.
Yeah.
And everything is organized, and people go with families, you know, like, and getting together and going around, you know, like, And maybe it's nice to finish this talk, for sure the first of many, I hope, with the UAE.
Yeah.
I see on Instagram that you are very, very active now throughout the mountains of UAE.
So so I've been here now in the UAE since November 17th when I flew in from Kotar, Porto Montenegro actually I flew in from, and yeah, so I've been stuck, and for the last 4 years I've been a resident of Dubai, but I haven't really spent any time here.
Yeah.
So I've had the chance to like learn how to live in Dubai, which has been a challenge, but it's been a welcomed challenge, and it's been surprisingly fun. So I rented an apartment here in Dubai, which is something I never thought I would have to do, but I had to I have a 12-month lease all of a sudden for the first time since 2002. You know, and then I was like, okay, now I'm settled in Dubai. What next? And I have a very good friend. His name is Paris Norris. He's that guy in Dubai. He makes all the TV shows about Dubai, and we're buddies. And he's like, let's start trekking. And I was like, God, I need to get some exercise and get out into the mountains. And so we started trekking every Friday morning. We leave Dubai at 5 a.m. We try to get as much of it done before it gets hot. December, January, and February and March were amazing. Now it's getting hotter earlier. But you know, we were in Ras Al Khaimah, we were in Fujairah, we were in Dubai. We went, you know, everywhere. We've done like 20 treks or something all around the UAE, and it's been
some filming, maybe GoPro or something.
Yeah,
like that.
he puts everything up on his social media, and we filmed a little for him. I think he's going to put together like a little YouTube piece about it at some stage. But for me, I just did it because it was therapeutic, and it was nice just to be outside, you know, sweating 15, 20 kilometers in the morning, getting that out of your system, because, you know, I'm wearing a tie every day and going to meetings and stuff like that, trying to figure out, you know, how to transition and what to do. So it was nice just to put the boots back on.
Yeah,
and get a
Did
sweat.
you find the bike? Did you find the bike? You were searching for a certain bike, some serious.
Yeah, I was interested
wheels.
in riding in Dubai as well, motorcycle, but I couldn't find one to rent. So I don't own anything. I don't like owning things.
Okay.
I hope that someday I can get back to traveling more frequently. so I don't like having things left behind.
Yeah.
I try to keep my life pretty light.
So what kind of bike you're searching for? Maybe some of the viewers know someone who has this.
Yeah, just a cruiser, just a retro kind of style cruiser. There's a BMW bike that's very nice like that. I was thinking about getting a Royal Enfield because I rode a Royal Enfield around India. Yeah. But now it's getting too hot, so I'll probably pack that idea away and rehash it in November or December.
Ran, thank you very much for this interview. It was really insightful and most of all inspiring for me personally and for the viewers. I really hope to keep in touch and see whether at what you will excel in the future, because you did your changes amazingly in the past.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ran.